10 American stereotypes I believed before visiting as a European by the channel of Lucille. I mean, Lucille sounds very French. So, yeah, I mean, I guess she's French. I'm not too sure. And before we start with the reaction video, I have a huge favor to ask you. Now some time opened up for me. I decided to become a full-time YouTuber, so I need you to destroy the comment sections with your comments. Please, I need to react to as many videos as I can every day, at least 2 to 3. Come on. I have lots of channels, but I'm really curious and I really want to learn more about the US. So you will be doing a huge favor to myself, to me, if you can recommend me lots of videos to learn about your beautiful country. Okay, let's check out the video right now. Been talking too much. Let's go.
I'm French, and like many Europeans,
Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you? I knew it. I knew it already.
French, and like many Europeans, I had a bunch of preconceived ideas about the US before I actually visited, and I have to admit that some were totally ridiculous, but some others actually turned out to be true. So let's explore that together, starting with the first stereotype I had, which is that Americans are very patriotic. So yes, as a European, when I first arrived, I was so surprised by how many American flags there were in the street. Like, it's not really a thing in France. Like, people don't fly French flags in their front lawn. It's seen as being a bit weird.
Yeah, of course. When you win the World Cup, definitely. We've been through that in Italy too, especially against the French.
But on my side, as someone who loves cultures, I'm really into it. You know, I really like the 4th of July decor, especially in the suburbs of Chicago where my boyfriend is from. It is so cool and really gets me in a patriotic mood, even though I'm not from the US. But it's not only that. Like, people really take the national anthem very seriously, like standing up at sports events. And Bobby told me that growing up, he had to say the Pledge of Allegiance every single day at school. So it definitely feels overall like a more patriotic experience than what I've lived personally. But I just want to say that it's also very polarized. Like, Americans themselves have very strong opinions about their country. And I've met a lot of people who are very apologetic for being American. And this is maybe linked to the other stereotypes we're going to talk about in a bit. But I feel it's such a shame that they...
But I mean, America has a population of what? 350 million, around that number. You can't expect everyone to be the same, of course.
These people feel the need to do that because I feel the US is a really great place to be from. And you know, obviously, like in every country, there are good things and bad things. But in my personal opinion, and I've lived and worked in the US, I've been to 15 states, but I've also lived in 8 different countries. I can say that the US is a really great place to be from. But another funny side of this stereotype is sometimes some people have a tendency to see the US as the center of the world. Like, for example, you know, thinking you can pay in dollars in Paris. And obviously do not do that if someone accepts your dollars in Paris. They don't have good intentions and you're probably being overcharged. And in general, you should always read up about a country before visiting. Things are gonna be very different from where you're from, and obviously not everyone is like that. If you're on this channel, you're probably really interested.
Wait, I didn't find France, Paris any different than other countries. I did learn that if I do my homework, like watching videos in the language, what they are for me. Okay.
In cultures, and you're trying your best to adapt, as I can see with all the...
I mean, if you believe that Parisians are rude because you watched Emily in Paris, you gotta rethink about your life. I mean, I actually went there. When was it? Yeah, I went there 2 years ago. Yes, it was 2023, around after Christmas. No, it was at the beginning of 2024 when I went. I went to Paris and then Lyon. I mean, I found that people were really nice. Like, I was speaking English to them. I can understand French, but I cannot speak it fluently. So I was just speaking English to them. Some were struggling when they were talking to me in English. So I said, you can just talk in French. I can reply you in English. Is that okay? They were like, oh, yeah, sure. So they would talk to me in French. I would reply in English. They were very nice, very welcoming. I didn't have bad experiences whatsoever when I traveled to France. I guess stereotypes are true to some extent, but yeah.
really cool comments you're leaving on my videos. But this leads me to my second stereotype, which is Americans are supposedly bad at geography. By now, we've all seen these YouTube videos of people asking Americans to name a country, any country, just name a country. And obviously these videos
But I feel that those videos, at least most of them, are staged, of course, right? Yeah, most of those videos are just staged.
play into the stereotypes. They're also cherry-picked, and I'm sure that if you shove the camera on my face and yelled at me, I will forget all the countries. But since it's a light video and it's about my personal opinion on these stereotypes, I have to tell you about something weird that keeps happening to me in the US. And maybe you have an opinion on that. So I'm from France and I grew up right there, and my dad is from Spain, the country in Europe that's right there. And sometimes this comes up in conversations, like for example, if we're talking about our origins with people. And in the US, for whatever reason, people misunderstand or don't remember correctly and think I'm from Mexico. And I love Mexico. I think it's a great country. I've spent a lot of time there during my travels. I've actually lived there for 6 months, but I am not from Mexico. I'm literally from the other side of the pond. Like, it's a 10-hour flight to go from Paris to Mexico. And this has led to...
Wow, that's pretty cheap. What the hell? How is this so cheap? Wait.
The other side of the pond. Like, it's a 10-hour flight to go from...
What the hell? How is it so cheap from Paris to Mexico? What the hell?
And this has led to a very awkward situation, especially at work, with people going out of their way to be nice and introducing me as Mexican to actual Mexican people who are like, oh cool, which part of Mexico are you from? And I'm like, France. And people who forget where I'm from are very educated, they're trying to be nice, and I've never understood why this happens so often, and why it's always Mexico and not, for example, Canada, where they also speak French. But I feel at this point it's not even a question of geography, but more of listening when people tell you where they're from. And also, I do feel that it's normal that some Americans...
I feel like you're confirming that Americans are bad at geography. I mean, I don't know. I want to know, if you're American and you're watching this video, let me know. What would you rate yourself on a scale 1 to 10 in geography? How many countries can you name? Come on. At least tell me how many countries. I think in Europe there are about 50 or 52 countries. So how many countries can you name on the top of your head in Europe? If it's superior to 10, I would say that your level is pretty good. I mean, it's different when you're European because you grew up in Europe. Every country is next to each other. You will learn most of the history in Europe is intertwined. That's how you say it. Wow, that's quite a big word. I didn't know I knew that word. Yeah, it's intertwined with each other. So it's easier for us because we're learning from history books, from geography books, and all that. If you know more than 10 countries, I think your level is quite okay. It's okay. If you can name more than 20, 25 or 30, yes, you're good at geography. You're okay. You can live in the real world. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, sure. Yeah, let me know. I'm curious. Let me know in the comments.
Don't know about every single European country. Like, the US is such a big country. There are many states already to remember. So I don't expect people to know about the exact place I'm from, because I personally don't know every single place in the US either. Also in Europe, where countries are very tiny and close to each other, like France is roughly the size of Texas. But there's also, for example, Monaco, which is the size of Central Park in New York. And Europeans also generalize the US too. Like, one of my European pet peeves is when people have very strong opinions about the US for no reason, even though they've never been there. And this is because US politics are very discussed by international media. Also, American movies and American companies are everywhere, but they are not representative of the American culture as a whole. Like, you can't have an educated point of view about the whole American culture just by watching Home Alone, for example. And this stereotype is also linked to the next one, which is that Americans don't travel. And I have to say that this one is entirely not true. You've probably heard the myth that only 10% of Americans have passports. Yeah. Well, apparently this has not been true for over 20 years. And apparently 3/4 of Americans have visited at least another country. So Americans are going abroad. They're just visiting fewer countries than us Europeans.
I feel like some stereotypes are really hard to die.
Roughly 1/4 of Americans have been to 5 or more countries, when in France that number is 54%, and in smaller European countries...
Wow, that's crazy, wait. then Europeans have visited 5 or more countries. Wow, why Polish people doesn't really travel? That's crazy. Wow, didn't know that.
more countries, when in France that number is 54%, and in smaller European countries like the Netherlands it's 83%. And that fully makes sense because there's two factors at play in international travel, which are basically how much money you have because flights and hotels are expensive, but also how close you are to another country. Like if we take the example of the Netherlands, you could technically bike to Belgium. It's super close. Also in the US, flights tend to be pretty expensive because you're pretty far away from other countries. Like your only neighbors are Canada and Mexico. And the US is so massive.
That's not true. I mean, yes, neighbors bordering, but if you're like from Florida, you can get to Cuba, you can get to Dominican Republic, you can get to, I don't know, Jamaica, you can get to Bahamas. Yeah, it's a very short flight if we're talking about taking a plane. I mean, it depends the rest on whether you want to. Yeah, I mean, she said a plane, so I won't say that. Yeah, the problem is that they are all islands, the neighboring ones. I mean, you can go to South America or Central America, I guess, but yeah.
That a lot of people prefer to travel domestically. Like there's already so much to do in the US. Like
Yeah,
nature
exactly.
is very diverse. There's a lot of really cool regional cultures. And also things are very, very far away from each other. Like for example, Barcelona in Spain is a very common weekend trip from where I grew up in France. It's roughly a 4-hour drive. In New York City where I used to live, the same amount of driving.
Actually, a fun fact, the other day I was checking out a map for no reason whatsoever. I was in Google Maps checking out different places. I realized that where I live is the same distance. No, wait. From my place to Barcelona is the same distance than from my place to Naples. I'm like, what? That's so fucking crazy. What the hell? The same distance. Wow. I mean, that was crazy. I couldn't believe it myself.
Only got me to Italy in New York State, which is in a very beautiful region and has really nice nature, really cool hikes, but obviously it's not another country. And another stereotype I had before going to the US is that Americans don't speak any other languages than English.
I think it's like, I don't know, I met some people when I went to Puerto Rico that they came from America, and they told me that America is kind of like 60 to 70% English and the rest is Spanish. And then there are some other minor languages.
And this one is not entirely true. Like the US is a country that has been built on immigration, and around 1 in 5 Americans speaks a different language at home. But even if you're not already bilingual, it's never too late to start learning a new language with today's partner, Rosetta Stone.
Oh, I got a partner too. I got a sponsor too. Soon. I still have to work my magic to show it to you, but yeah, it's pretty good. It's gonna be pretty good.
Rosetta Stone is an immersive language learning app that uses pictures, audio, and native pronunciation tools to help you confidently speak a new language, as if it were your first. All their lessons are themed and built to immerse you in real-world situations you'd actually encounter. Also, they have this really cool voice recognition feature called True Accent, and it listens to your pronunciation and gives you feedback so that you can sound more like a native speaker. At the moment, Rosetta Stone is offering 60% off their lifetime unlimited language subscription, giving you access to all 25 of their languages for life with just one payment. So if you've been waiting, access to all 20.
Oh my god. I need to learn Finnish. It's not easy to find resources to learn Finnish.
5 of their languages for life with just one payment. So if you've been waiting for the right moment to learn a language, you should click the link in the description below. Alright, so this next one is a bit weird, but another thing I've been warned of before going to the US is medical expenses. Like I've literally been told, be careful to not break a leg in the US. Otherwise, you'll...
No, I think we already covered this one in other videos. Basically, they have to, like, if it's an emergency or whatever, you need surgery, they have to operate on you, and then they will present you the bill, and you can pay it in installments or whatever. but they have to. They won't let you there die. I think that's probably what European people think when they go to the US if they don't have enough money to pay for it. I mean, I had a medical emergency when I was in Vietnam. I paid, I don't know, it was about 2004 because I didn't have an insurance. And in that moment, I was really tight on money. Oh my God. I had to ask my parents to lend me some money because I couldn't pay it. They wouldn't let me out of the hospital until I would pay. That was pretty crazy. Yeah. But in the US, I don't think it's like that.
You'll be in debt. And given current events, it seems like a really big issue. But luckily for me, I haven't broken anything. And the only medical emergency I had while living in the US was an ear infection. And obviously, ear infections are not life-threatening. But if you've ever had one, it hurts so bad that you're ready to do anything to make it stop. And on my side, I went to an urgent care facility where I saw a doctor and it costed me $300. Luckily, my health insurance was very good at the time because I was working for a French company in the US. So I had to pay out of pocket and then I was reimbursed. But in the time it took for me to get reimbursed, I was very scared that my claim was going to be denied or that I would not be reimbursed in full. And to be honest, $300 is a lot of money for an ear infection.
It is.
If we compare that to my most recent ear infection, and I have sensitive ears, okay, which was in Paris, I had to pay $0 out of pocket. Like they didn't even ask to see my credit card. They only needed my health insurance card. If I had to pay out of pocket, it would have been 25 euros, which is around $26. So it is very, very cheap to see a doctor in France. And it's pretty easy to get an appointment for everyday stuff. Obviously, our system is not perfect, but I feel it's a pretty good one. I've never had any kind of medical stress in France. And
yeah, I feel like the most you would pay for a specialist visit here would be, I don't know, maybe 90 to 100 euros. Converted into US dollars would be 110, maybe the maximum that I can imagine. Yeah, most of the visits are not that expensive. There's always like a cheaper doctor that you could find.
Obviously, in the US, the stereotype varies quite a lot depending on your health insurance plan because it depends of your employer. And I've really seen both ends of the spectrum, like from people who didn't have dental and couldn't afford to get dental care, which really sucks. Like it's so painful. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I've seen like stuff that's not very necessary being reimbursed. Like recently, I was talking with my friends about this clinic that gives you a
Chanel goodie bag from
Chanel goodie bag after you give birth. So yeah, not very necessary. I'd rather not pay $300 if I have an ear infection. But yeah, overall, I feel very grateful that I've always been super healthy. My family and all my loved ones have been very healthy, so I haven't tested it.
Yeah, I feel we should definitely check out a whole video only focused on how the health how the healthcare system works in the US. I'm really curious about it. I've been learning bits and pieces from your comments and also from watching other videos, but I want to like have the full idea, like finally understand it
extensively, any medical system. And if you have and you want to share your experience, feel free to leave me a comment. Another thing I believed about the US is that people sue each other for no reason. All right, I know this one is a bit of a weird one, but from a European perspective, it seems like the US is like the Wild West of lawsuits, like just driving on the highway.
Don't worry about that. In Italy it's the same. In Italy it's the same. I mean, I'm not that popular, so it's still a little bit early. But most of the YouTubers that I follow, they get lots of lawsuits all the time. They get sued all the time. What the hell? That's crazy. Okay, but that's different. That's different. Like, yeah, okay. I don't know, but I feel like there's a lot of this in Italy too. Come on. We are the guys that invented mafia. Give us some credit. I'm not very proud of saying that.
Where you see a bunch of like personal injury lawyers, you have to sign release forms all the time, and you hear about those crazy viral lawsuits. And here I can't talk about that without talking about what happened to this poor
That sounds like a good idea for a future video, right? The most ridiculous lawsuits.
Old lady that had to be hospitalized for 8 days after spilling McDonald's coffee on her lap. Like, I've seen the picture,
What?
and what happened to this lady was really horrible. She had third-degree burns, and she decided to sue
What
McDonald's
the
to pay
hell?
for her medical bills. That's just what she was asking for. The title of the New York Times documentary I watched about it sums it best: burned by hot coffee, then by the media. Like, she was painted by the news as just a dumb lawsuit that was fully useless. ABC News even called
And how is it McDonald's fault? They bring you a hot coffee. If you spill it on yourself, how is that their fault?
it the poster child of
What
excessive
the hell?
lawsuits. And from a European perspective, that's just what I heard. I actually didn't know what happened to this lady, and obviously hadn't seen the pictures, which are awful. So I feel this stereotypes comes from extreme cases that were very publicized, and in reality things are a bit more nuanced. Like, I feel suing for medical bills is totally understandable, and seriously, the very few people I know that have been involved in a lawsuit, it has been for a very good reason. So I don't think suing people qualifies as an American hobby. I don't know, and I don't want to know. I'm not a lawyer. I've never been involved in any lawsuits, and I intend for things to stay this way. Alright, so this is supposed to be a light video, and recently in my recommended, I've had a lot of videos of Italians trying Olive Garden. And you know, as you could
Oh, yes, I've got a recommendation to check out this video. Is it good? Let me know. I watched one. No, I don't really like. I gotta be honest with you. I'm Italian. I don't really like to watch the Italian videos of Italians trying American food. They seem too arrogant, you know. I don't like that. It's like they don't really have an open mind. Those people that are featuring those videos, they're like, oh, that's disgusting. I cannot eat that. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. You can't expect everything. I don't know. I mean, I'm Italian. Whenever I travel to another country, I know I have to avoid trying the pasta in the places that are not very Italian or they claim to be Italian when I can easily realize that they are not. I know when I go there, they will cook pasta that will not fit my taste buds, you know? It will be very disgusting to me. So I just avoid it. I mean, I'm in another country. Let me just eat what the country is offering, what the country is known for. What's the point to go to another country and eat Italian food? I mean, if I know that this Italian, they're really Italian, and they cook like in Italy, yes, sure. But otherwise, just avoid it. What's the point? Come on. Yeah, I've seen so many of those videos. So if she's saying that it's too arrogant, that she doesn't like it, I agree with her. That's too disrespectful. I feel like that. Come on. I mean, I'm not like a prude. I like to make fun of everything. I like black humor. I like everything. But no, I don't like people being like that.
expect. Their reactions are not very good. They are very scared to go there. They don't really like the food. And overall, they find the experience very bland and inauthentic.
No, but him I like because he's always very honest when he's speaking, you know. He's always open. He always go there with an open mind. He always is willing to try. He will just maybe complain and say, no, this is not Italian. He will, but he does it in a way that is very, very respectful, you know. So I'm glad watching his videos. Other people I've seen, there was this woman from Italy. I think she's from. I'm not too sure. Her husband is American, and he always feed her American food. And she always act in such a rude way. I don't like it. I think they are even quite popular, but I don't remember their names. So yeah.
And that's often how Europeans tend to perceive American food. And I have to admit that I did believe that before I visited the US, but luckily I was proven entirely wrong. The US is a massive country with a very rich food
What is that?
culture that varies from state to state. And I have to say that this stereotype is absolutely untrue. I feel this bad image stems from the fact that our only contact with American food in Europe are the big fast food chains. Like, for example,
is true.
I used to have a terrible image of fried chicken because I only knew about KFC.
Yeah, actually, come to think about it, you know, here in Italy, you go to big cities, you will find all kinds of restaurants from each place on earth, basically. But you don't really see like, oh, this is a Californian restaurant. This is a Kansas specialities of food. No, you only see like American restaurant, and then you go in. There will be burgers, there will be sausages, all kinds of fast food type of things. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of your fault, you know? Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. It's kind of your fault. You should go all over the world and bring your state's cuisine and sponsor it. Not as American, but it's your state's cuisine. And then definitely we're gonna change our mind on your food. Yes.
and it didn't look really good to me. Like, I thought this was pure junk food and I was not really willing to try it. I usually don't really like big chains because I prefer to go to small shops. But a few years ago, my American boyfriend actually brought me to Atlanta, Georgia to go to one of the best fried chicken restaurants in the world. And there we actually met the chef who told us about the recipe that hasn't changed since 1945. And like, they really put so much love and care into it. Like, they marinate the chicken overnight. It's super juicy and tasty, and they serve it with really delicious sides. And since then, I've been such a big fan of fried chicken and southern food in general. I even love chicken and waffles, which is another food that would send Europeans into a coma, but it's so good. And I feel that in general, the US does comfort food so well. And there are so many small businesses that are not owned by big corporations. And I feel you obviously shouldn't rule out American food just because you've seen McDonald's or KFC. Like, it's really my pet peeve when Europeans say the food is not tasty in the US, because not only there's really good American foods, but there's also food from all over the world. Like, for example, in New York, I've tried really authentic Malaysian food, Indian food, Indonesian food, and all of these foods, they're made very authentically. Like, they keep the recipes the same as at home, and they often import some spices or products. Stereotype number 8 is that people love to work. And obviously I'm French, so it comes to no surprise to you that people have a lot of vacation time in France, but that's one image I had of Americans. And I do feel this one is kind of true. Like, there is this always on mentality where people are always thinking about business or maybe building side hustles and always trying to make things happen. And obviously sometimes it's a necessity. Like, people who have several jobs, they don't always do that because they love it. Like, they need to pay rent. But there is more of a focus in the US in having a side hustle, monetizing your passions. Whereas in France, I know a lot of people, for example, who are very good at a skill like art, but just do that in private and will never think of monetizing anything. And this also ties up with stereotype number 9, which is that Americans are very optimistic and outgoing. And that's a thing that I had to adapt to in the US because it's not in my culture, but now I really love small talk. I love how positive people are, and I've already talked about it in the other video I made about the US, but that's something that makes daily life a bit nicer. And honestly, I feel like this outgoing energy is reflected everywhere, which leads me to my next stereotype that everything is big in the US. This one, coming from a European perspective, is entirely true. The highways are massive, the cars are very big, the portion sizes are massive, although now I'm used to it and I really like it. And one thing that's for sure massive in the US is the distances. The US is such a big country, and recently I crossed it from New York to SF by train, and it took me 3 days. I also made a video about my thoughts, and I think you should watch it next. I'll see you there.
Wow. Wait, which one was it?
Me 3 days. I also made a video about my thoughts.
Oh, no, it doesn't show. Oh my god, I need to find it. Wow, 3 days. That is insane. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, I feel like, yes, the thing that I think I won't like if I will live in the US is the lack of sidewalks. I mean, I see many videos of those huge roads in the US and there's no sidewalk. Yeah, that's definitely something that I don't like. I like to take walks every day, try to get my 10,000 steps. Most of the times I cannot. Like, let me see now. Wait, let me see how many steps today. Yeah, exactly. 7,002. 7,002 today. What the hell? 7,002. That sucks. It's not even gonna focus. Whatever. But most of the times I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Most of the times like 11, 12,000. Some days it's 3 or 4,000. I mean, I'm not perfect. There are days that I'm so lazy. But I really like to walk, listen to my podcast. I'm not a fan of running or working out, so walking is the right thing for me. Whatever weather, it's just that sometimes I'm just too lazy and I don't do it. So, anyways, yeah, but probably there are so many places like New York City. When you see there are so many people always walking, especially in Manhattan, no? So yeah, there are definitely places for that too. I mean, I think you can always find a situation that is perfect for you in the US. So yeah, it's just that you have to do your homework before. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I've been talking so much. So yeah, if you do enjoy my content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in my next video.